Have you ever read the King James Bible and thought, the thou arts in this aren't confusing enough? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to watch a movie and think, this is both too long and not long enough to have a satisfying ending? Have you ever wished that a movie would tell you less, and by less I mean nothing at all about the plot? If you said yes to any of these questions, then The Green Knight might be the movie for you. Now let me say this, any movie that you have to Google what it means after seeing it, I personally have a hard time calling it a masterpiece, as many people are doing. And I hope you'll give me the ability to explain that before cutting my head off in the comments. Get it? Because the Green Knight and the head and... never mind. I get why this is being praised so much. And as art is subjective and this is art, it's an art house movie, I'm not going to fight that. I'm just going to give my take on why I'm disappointed. I didn't hate this movie. In fact, in the first 30 minutes of it, I wrote in my notes, the most dynamic movie I've seen this year, everything so far is beyond captivating. And coming off two half-assed blockbuster movies recently, Snake Eyes and Space Jam, I was thrilled at how strong of an opener this movie had. Unfortunately, it didn't last long. So I'm going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly on this because the movie had some amazing pieces, but in my opinion, they didn't offset the downfalls. Many of those downfalls in my book are even the things that got this an 85 out of 100 by critics, but we'll cover why that is. As always, we start with the good. The cinematography. Oh man, this is why art house material type stuff is praised. Unique moving shots where you can't tell the difference between practical effects and CGI. I legitimately don't know the difference between what was real and what was green screen. Then there's the angles that David Lowery chose to shoot from, and then moving between pillars and trees and how he cuts between locations. The talent there is unbelievable. And speaking of talent, the acting is also next level. Not a single character in this film is out of place. These people were their characters, and I suspect some award nominations will be seen out of this. And that's it. That's the end of the good list. Really, once you get over the cinematography, which is about in the first 30 minutes, it gets boring. There's only so many times you can show me a forest perfectly framed and have me care. I get it. I get that the forest is nice. Why does it matter to the story? That's what you're waiting for the entire movie. And that singular question, why does this matter to the story, is never answered. Not for the forest aspect, but for any time something happens. Now, I'll interrupt myself here and say the fable or story of the Green Knight is very understandable. It's not that it's difficult to understand. The issue is, it's not a famous story. And I mean famous story. I can tell you why Michael Jackson is famous. I can name you the painter that cut off his own ear. I can tell you that Santa Claus lives in the North Pole, has a team of elves, and rides a sleigh pulled by magical reindeer. One of them has a red nose. But before you saw this movie, what did you know about the Green Knight? Oh, nothing? Just like the rest of us? Excellent. How about King Arthur and how one becomes a knight? Do you know the lore, or do you just have a vague understanding? I personally know King Arthur is a person, and he owns a round dinner table. Aesthetically pleasing? Sure, not a bad call. But you need to know a hell of a lot more to know anything about this movie and its characters. Probably 50% of why this movie is incoherent is because of the 5-point symbol that represents a knight. We see it on the stars of the knights in the room, but we also know that our character is not a knight. He says this many times so we don't forget it. Unfortunately, we don't know why we need to not forget it. The 5 points that are described in Think Story's YouTube video on this, I'll link it in the bio, are generosity, friendship, piety, courtesy, and chastity. And I'm not sure how we were supposed to know that until we Googled it. I'm definitely not sure why they thought they could tell this story without elaborating on it in any capacity. It's highly relevant information, as the tests our character go through all have to do with these 5 things. We see our character fail time and time again at these. The movie opens with him in a brothel, he ruins the only friendship we see in the film, he isn't courteous to anyone, and when he's asked to do someone a favor, he outright asks, "What will I get in return?" Not exactly generous. The movie nailed showing that he wasn't these things. What it failed to do was show us why that mattered. Like I said, I didn't know about these things until I watched the Think Piece story. And you either learned in a similar way or you got a literary degree in ancient folklore, which, to be honest, isn't likely. So I'm not sure why so many people are treating this movie like The Second Coming when it was long and drawn out and we were all, except for the historians, lost during it. And the 5-point knight system is not the only unanswered piece. Here's a partial list of things we don't know without Google or a video explainer, just to give you some idea of how vague this movie is. We don't know why his mother summoned the Green Knight in the first place. We don't know who this lady is or how he got the axe back exactly. Why the pond turned into a vast body of water with red backlight. Why we saw his own corpse in the woods. why this lady had both the face of his lover and the sash that he lost earlier, and why this lady had the same bandages on her eyes that his mother had. What was real or fake after the hallucinations, including the giants, and we don't know why or how he saw his future when he was about to be beheaded. We definitely don't know if he was beheaded. My issue here is that Hollywood has a fetish for cinematically stunning movies that are really vague, and I get it. Leaving things up to interpretation is one of the cornerstones of art. The opposite of this is called being on the nose, where everything is so obvious to the audience that the audience feels talked down to, so they hate it. On the nose material sucks. But you can also go too far in the opposite direction and make it too vague, which even vagueness isn't fully the issue. Sometimes that makes a great movie. Think about Inception. To this day, you can start a fight by walking into a Starbucks and yelling, "The spinner wobbled," because everyone has their theory of what the ending of that movie meant. The key difference in something like Inception, where the ending is left up for interpretation, and The Green Knight, is the ability to enjoy the journey leading up to that. This was not an enjoyable journey, at least not from my subjective experience. The movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes, and you feel every single one of those minutes with long, drawn-out scenes with no cut, no action, and sometimes not even any dialogue, as much of this movie the main character is by themselves. When he's with someone, you best have paid attention in Sunday school, because everyone, specifically the king, speaks in an ancient King James dialect. Not an issue necessarily, it actually sets the tone for the time period well, but when you add it in with the already confusing story, it doesn't help. More than that, being visually stunning only goes so far. Yes, the scenes start out really captivating, but when they linger for 2, 3, 4 minutes at a time on one shot and nothing happens, what do you expect of the audience? The only reason I didn't pick up my phone and start scrolling on something during these scenes is because I was in a movie theater. Imagine the tens of thousands, if not more, who won't be forced to have such restraint when they watch this movie at home. It's boring. So sure, absolutely the director knows how to set up a stunning scene, but from a storytelling perspective, why? How is it a good story when it's this vague, when it's this drawn out? These things may be the qualities some people look for. It doesn't cut it for me. To me, a story speaks to you. It says enough so that you know what's going on, but not so much that my imagination is turned off. It leaves me with a sense of emotion about what happened, even if that's a negative emotion like sadness or guilt. That wasn't the case here. So to wrap this up, we don't know why the story happened in the first place, i.e. why his mother summoned the Green Knight, and we don't know how the story ended. That's 2 parts of a 3-part structure, a beginning, a middle, and an end. We don't know what the beginning was, we don't know what the end was, all we know is the middle, and it was a boring middle. I'm positive this one will piss people off, but I want to hear the dialogue in the comments. What did you think about it and why? Am I being too critical, or is art just subjective and this one wasn't for me? Let me know. Hit the like, subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you next week with James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Undoubtedly a banger. James Gunn is so talented, so looking forward to that. Bye.